Entrepreneurship, got that inspiration. Yeah, now I'm just doing it. Working on these projects, my ideas I'm pursuing. No matter what the problem, the solution, I'm proving it. Let's talk about it and open up the dialogue. Contractors telling their stories about how they got it started and how they keep it going. The passion fuels the mission, now we blasting into orbit, we gone. That's where we grow from. Started with the vision, make the pitch and knock it out the park like home runs. We keep it moving, self-belief, no doubt. Pass off the mic to my man's Jim Cloud. I don't wanna stop for nothing.
Jim Cloud here from Contractors Stories. This is the podcast where we get the backstory on home service professionals, contractors, just like you and Bob Muller. Hey, Bob, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, Jim. Hey, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here. It looks like it's going to be another fun show today. It looks like we got a really fun guest to put on the venue today.
Loren Goodrich, Houston Deck and Shade, a young man I've known for a little while now, and he has quite a story. I've got some questions lined up for him. I'm not going to let you know what they are, Bob, and I haven't really told anyone what these are. But, you know, we like to dig up stuff in what I like to call their backstory, going back in time.
Yeah, that's kind of what our show is about. We definitely want to get the story, what the contractor's doing. But, the premise of the show is actually to get into the guy's story a little bit, put a little bit of backstory to who the contractor is, let people kind of know who the man is, and it's just fun entertainment, and get to have a good conversation with a good guy in the contracting space.
For those of you who've never tuned into the program before, it's different than the typical contractor podcast you might see out there, where a lot of people talk about what's going on today, how they're growing their business, how they're building their teams. Those are great podcasts, but these are the same people, and we go back in time to show you, and so we can learn what made them so great today. And I think there's a lot of benefit to that.
Yeah, it's a fun show because we really get to learn a little bit about who built this person, what motivated them. Maybe it's just even, something that they weren't even thinking they were ever going to be in. Who knew that they may be a contractor someday? Maybe there was different dreams, different passions, but every single thing that shapes us in life takes us in the direction we're in. And we just want to get that story about that person, how he got there, why he got there, who inspired him. Those messages that that are important for all of us contractors that have gotten to where we're at. We just want to get that story from them.
Let's get to Loren right now.
Sounds great.
Jim Cloud here on the Contractors Stories podcast. Welcome to the program. My favorite contributor is joining me here, of course, Bob Muller. How are you doing, Bob?
Doing great, Jim. Hey, thanks. Excited for today's show. I think it's going to be a fun conversation that we have today. Can't wait to dive in.
Yeah, Loren Goodrich is joining us from Houston Deck and Shade. I've gotten to know Loren over the past few months, and he's actually become a client of mine. So we've gotten, pretty close. And I wanted to get Loren's story. Loren, how are you doing?
Doing great, Jim. How are you?
I am living the dream. Thanks so much for asking, my friend. It's great to have you here on the program. So as you know, we like to dive deep into the man or woman behind the business. So many podcasts talk about what's going on today and the growth of the company and the challenges with team members and so forth. We leave that all behind on this program. This program is all about who is the engine? How did this start? So Loren, are you ready? Because we're going to go back to your childhood to begin with.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I like to start way back when our guests are young. And the first question I have today here on the program is, who were you at 10 years old? You were obviously a boy in Texas, but explain what you were doing and what type of person you were then compared to who you are today.
Man, I don't think I've ever been asked that question, Jim.
That's why we do this on the show.
when I was 10 years old, I was a kid that well, my dad was in construction. My dad had a deck business as well, and he would bring home material, and he would pay me and my brother to go clean off the trailer. We clean off the trash off his trailer, and he'd tear out old decks, and we'd take all the material and clean it off the trailer. Well, we would drag that stuff all over the yard. We built forts everywhere. There was just, we grew up in the country, and there was stuff in every tree. And, we would go in the garage and just grab big old handfuls of nails and raid his stuff all the time. He actually had to lock all his stuff up because me and my brother wouldn't stay out of it. And anyway, we would just stream this stuff all over the yard and built stuff all the time. And we lived out in the woods, and so we would just, if we weren't building forts, we'd just take off and with a shotgun, and if it was brown, it was down. That's just kind of how we lived.
So things haven't changed a whole lot because, a lot of kids wanted to be a fireman or an astronaut. You grew up in the deck business, and you've been doing this now your entire life, correct?
Yes, sir. Pretty much.
Yeah. And you started this business, Houston Deck and Shade, at 19 years old.
That's correct, Jim.
That's rare. Most kids are doing other stuff like, I don't know, dating, partying, working somewhere else. Did you always know you were destined to be a deck builder?
My whole life, as far back as I can remember, all I wanted to do was build decks. I mean, it sounds weird. What I didn't realize then is what I really wanted to do was be in business. It wasn't necessarily the decks. That was just my vehicle to the business. I mean, that's really what it's evolved into. I'm no longer a deck builder. I'm no longer a tradesman. I'm a businessman. I haven't built a deck in 6 years. And that's just how it's evolved. I didn't know that back then, though. I just thought, hey, man, I love doing this. It was something that always intrigued me. I always gravitated to carpentry, and yeah, I always wanted to do it since I was little.
So, as a craftsman, originally, you've gone from being that craftsman, being the guy who's actually designing, selling, and building the product, to now mostly building your company. Do you miss getting involved with your hands?
Some days I do, but mostly not, because my passion has changed. My passion has moved away from the labor aspect. I mean, I used to love it. And I have a little weekend place. And last week I went up there and did a little project up there. And, I literally had to rob tools off my company trucks because I don't have any tools anymore. It's just this weird feeling. I mean, I still have, tape and a hammer, but I don't have, hardly anything anymore. So I had to go rob some tools, and it felt kind of strange, but anyway, I went up to the lake and I did this little project. I just built a little, 10 by 12 deck. It didn't take that long, but it was hot. No, I don't regret it.
Yeah, that's good. Hey, Bob, what were you doing in 19?
I'm telling you. Well, I was in the military myself, so I was in the Army at that time, at that stage of my life. But what I'm interested in is, so was this like a passion that was given to you by your family? Was this a passion that was maybe like handed down by your grandfather, or what values did you have? Like, was it like from a part in your life where this was passed down from generations, or how did that work out for you?
Well, the Goodriches are entrepreneurs. It goes way back to my grandpa's got a story of his great uncle Abishai that came down on the Ohio River on a raft and then made his way down to Illinois. And anyway, it's just this big story about he had a raft, and then he turned it into he started hauling freight on it, and then he bought some tugboats. And so we have this generational thing of being entrepreneurs. My dad built his business up, and I worked for him for a while, and he had a bunch of other businesses. My grandfather was a machinist, and he was a machinist for over 40 years on his own, and worked for himself. And so this entrepreneurial spirit is really strong in my family. One thing, though, that my family has always kind of overlooked is they never really got out of the mindset of, let's scale this thing. It's always been, the small mom and pop business. Well, in decades past, that was doable. Well, now the way that technology works and mining data and using data, the days of a mom and pop business surviving are gone. If you can't figure out how to use technology, and how to use other people's um, character traits and their assets that they bring to the table. If you can't figure out how to do that, then you're just going to struggle and you're just going to own your job. You're never going to get ahead. One of my friends told me the other day, he said, the guy that wins in small business is the guy that figures out how to manipulate the data. And that's true. How do you use the data that you have? And so it's gone a lot further than just for me building decks. That now is just the service that we offer because the business principles are really the same.
Loren, would you suggest or believe that when you pass on to a different place that you're going to be known as a deck builder or a business builder?
Jim, I probably would be known. I mean, if it were to happen, if I were to pass now, yeah, I'd probably be a deck guy, a businessman. I mean, I am known for building decks. That's what I've done, pretty much my whole life. But at the end of it, it goes deeper than that. I want to be known as a good man.
And that's important because you are a husband and a father to four children?
Three.
Sorry, you know what? I'm always looking.
Hey, I'll take a fourth.
I'm always looking at the next thing. So when's the next one due?
It's not.
Jim,
Proverb says a great name is rather be chosen than great riches, and I believe that. My family, my grandfather has given me a great name. My dad's given me a good name, and my great grandfather gave me a good name. Actually, I'm named after my great grandfather Loren, and he was a good man, and he died too young, but he's known for his character.
Yeah, very important, man. That's great. Being the leader of your family, having that name. Is there somebody in your heritage along the way that maybe like thinking about what you're doing, taking the family business and expanding it, or what's on the horizon for you guys?
I don't know. My son's 10, and so he's at that point in his life, where I was when I was 10. He's cut from a little different cloth than me. He doesn't quite think like I do. He's got a different personality. I'm a very strong type A personality. He's not. So I don't know where that goes for him, but he is very much an intellectual. So he could definitely do well in the business aspect of it. It's funny you asked that. When my son was 5 years old, I asked him, I said, "Son, what do you want to do when you grow up?" And I could tell he was in deep thought. He thought about it for a minute. He looked me square in the eyes. He goes, "Dad, I'm going to be your boss."
Wow.
So I don't know if I'm trying to set my business up to where I can build a legacy for my children, and I can build a legacy for my family, and not just this generation, but for generations to come. I want this to be something that's sustainable. And then my daughter Harper, she's a little more strong-willed with Carson. One thing that you have to be in business, you have to be strong-willed. If you're not a strong-willed individual, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're self-willed. Self-willed and strong-willed are two different things, but a lot of strong-willed people are self-willed. And when you're self-willed, everything's about you. You can't have that and be successful long-term and build a legacy for your family. But if you're strong-willed but flexible, now we're getting somewhere. And so I don't see that character in my son so much as I do my daughter.
Yeah, I will tell you this. My children are twice your children's age, and they do change. And Bob has children that are older than mine, so you can't tell. But I will tell you this: they haven't changed a whole lot over the 2 decades. So sometimes you can really peg them, and we're not all the same. So just because as business owners, we may be entrepreneurs and business owners and have certain traits, doesn't mean that our children will. And let's say that they didn't want to take over the business. What would be your plans for your business as far as an exit down the road? Now, I will tell everyone, Loren's only 33 years old. He's young. He started at 19. It's a great story. He's got a lot of time left, but where do you see the future?
Jim, I've often thought about that. I don't plan to retire. I love what I do. That may change when I get older. I've got 20 years ahead of me at least. So I'm not planning to retire. I would like to work. I want to be that guy that comes in the office in my 80s and, you know, they just got this little couch over here for me where they just kind of push me aside. I said, all right, Pops, you know, you can make your phone calls a day. Just get out of my way. I want to be that guy. Okay. But I can't do that unless I build this thing to where it's capable of that. So I don't know where I want to go with it. If my kids don't want to take it over, then, you know, I would like to see it move on and grow. I don't want to just see it, you know, just liquidate. So probably sell it.
Sure. And that's always an option. And at some point, and it may be premature, as business owners, we need to have an exit plan in mind, and it often changes. So I was just curious. So going back in time, who was the most influential person in your life? Was it your father, a grandparent?
As far as my career,
Just in your life? Whatever, the number one
know,
person, you know, a mom, a dad, maybe a mentor. It could be anything, because really your business is you. It just is. It's a reflection of you. No matter who you are, your business takes on who you are. So it's an open question.
So that's an interesting question as well. So my dad, it was very influential in getting me involved in the trade. Now the funny thing is, he always told me as a kid that he wanted me to go to college. He didn't want me to be a tradesman. Um, you know, but I don't think he realized the aspirations that I had. I don't think he realized how serious I took it, because I mean, I was serious about it even as a, you know, 10, 12 years old. But he always had different ideas for me than I did. But his love of it and his, you know, his skill sets really rubbed off on me. That was probably the first really influential person. And as I got older, you know, I've had some other mentors. One of the mentors that really helped me in business was my friend Roger Simons. Roger, he's 72 years old now. He's quite a bit older than me. And about 10 years ago, I like to fish a lot, and so I had a little camper, and I put it in an RV park up at the lake at Sam Rayburn. And I was at the boat ramp one day, and I ran into this older gentleman. He was pulling his boat out. I was pulling my boat out, and anyway, we got to talking, and come to find out, he had a house directly across the street from where the RV park was, where my camper was. So anyway, we got talking, and this has been, I think this was 2011. So, you know, it's 2023 now. It's been a while. And he had just retired and bought his lake house at the lake. And he lived in Beaumont, and he had sold his partnership in the business to his business partner's son. And he kind of took me under the wing, and he coached me. I mean, there was a time for probably 2 years where I had another phone line. I got on the phone and I mailed it to him because we were talking so much on the phone. You know, back then I guess we were paying for minutes, but so I got an unlimited phone plan, and man, we talked all the time. He really coached me. He helped me build this business up. He told me, he said, Loren, you're never going to grow if you don't get a secretary. You know, get your office established and hire a secretary. And I did. I got out of the office. Or I got out. I started to get out of the field, and then I hired a secretary. So I got out of the office. And man, once that happened, once I relinquished all the accounting and the bookkeeping and all that stuff, man, my business just started to blow up. And that's been 7, 8 years ago since I did that the first time. And now I've moved my office 3 times. I went from a little 8x10 build out in the corner of my shop. I just framed up a little office inside my shop, and we used that for a couple of years. And then I bought a portable building and put it out in the yard. That was a 12x24. And I officed out of that for a couple of years. And then a year ago, we bought a house and moved into a house. We just took over the whole house, 3-bedroom house. It's right on the highway, and that's what we're in now. And so I see that progressing even further, because, you know, it's 3 bedrooms, and all 3 bedrooms are full, and we've got a little foyer with another little desk in there for one more person. But we're quickly outgrowing this.
Loren, you shared a story with me a little while back, which I found very fascinating. And it just goes to show the ingenuity you have and the forward thinking. And a lot of people would be stopped at this point. And what that is your lumber yard. So you know where I'm going with this. And let me set it up a little bit. Loren wanted to get the best pricing and get as much product as he could in terms of lumber for his business in the deck building business. Problem is the suppliers didn't want to supply him wholesale product. So what did you do?
I love this story, Jim. So back in 2020, during the pandemic, we were having huge problems getting material, anything, man, anything and everything. You know how it was. It was back order, special order, 12, 16, 24-week lead times. It was just insane. And so, and not to mention the prices were going up by the day. So I really needed to do something different. So I had a supplier, and I was buying all my lumber retail. I was getting a little contractor discount, but not huge. In March, when everything shut down, and then at first part of April, everything opened back up in 2020, we just got slammed. I mean, just about everybody else in the home improvement space just got slammed. And so I had bought some land, and I had a little extra land on my lot. I had a lot big enough to store material. So, and I already had a forklift. So I just started we were booked out 3 to 6 months. Man, that whole year, by the end of 2020, we were almost 6 months out. It was crazy. And so we just couldn't build them fast enough. So I started buying material. As soon as I got a contract, I'd do the whole job pack, and we'd set it on the fence out in, the lot next door. We get ready to do that job. I just take the forklift, go over there, put it on a trailer, and haul it the job. Well, we did that for several months, and one day I went out there, and I had all these jobs lined up on the fence, all these lumber packs, and I'm looking at all this money sitting there, and I said, man, I'm paying this lumber yard retail prices, and I'm doing all the logistics on it. I mean, this is insane. And so I started calling around, and I couldn't find anybody that would sell wholesale to me, because I wasn't a lumber yard. You're not going to get wholesale lumber as a contractor. It's just not going to happen. That wholesale industry is just tied up. Sure. And so I just kept running dead ends. No, you got to be a lumber yard. You got to have a lumber yard. All right. So fast forward to a few more months. I bought the lot next door. I rented another lot that backed up to it. And then I bought a building, moved a building in, and within 6 months, Loren's Lumber and Hardware was opened up. May 11th of 2021, we opened our doors for Loren's Lumber and Hardware. And now we have a hardware store with, we got plumbing, electrical, tools, fasteners, nuts, bolts. I mean, just a regular hardware store. And then we've got a lumber yard in the back.
That's great ingenuity. You can now supply yourself with more product at a better price, build a second business, and have basically two businesses and build equity in both. And you had told me in the past that you had planned to really grow both businesses into the multiple millions of dollars. And now you've got two separate assets, and they actually complement each other.
Yes, sir. That's correct. My focus is still on Houston Deck and Shade, because Houston Deck and Shade is Loren's Lumber's biggest customer. So if the more decks that I sell, the more lumber that I push through Loren's Lumber, the more volume we can buy and the better prices we can get, because you buy stuff by the truckload, you get a better price. So we already buy Trex by the 18-wheeler load. That's been huge. Our relationship with Trex Decking. And we get a lot of marketing from Trex as well, because not only we're a retailer, but we're also the number one installer in Southeast Texas by volume. So we move a lot of composite decking through our yard. We buy that by the truck. Of course, we buy treated pine by the truckload, and anything else we can get by the truck. But the more volume we move through, the better price we get, and the more stuff we have on our yard.
Hey, Bob, can you imagine having a plumbing supply house built into your business? And there are actually some people in service businesses, in HVAC and in plumbing, that have their own, basically supply house inside their business if they're big enough. Have you ever done that?
Yeah. We do that now. We partner with companies within our own company, so that we have a full sustainable warehouse that our guys don't have to go to a plumbing supply house. So It's all right here, managed and maintained. But yes, to his point there, it's way more advantageous to be able to run both of that right out of your own company, and you're getting the profit out of it. So that's that's a blessing for your business, and a great way to shift and focus on growth and potential new opportunities. So that's really good on you. Good job.
And
yeah, ultimately, where I would like to go with it is, at first I didn't know anything about retail. I knew a little bit about lumber, but I knew about lumber from the building side of it. The retail side of lumber is totally different. And so I went into it trying to sell house packs and frame packs, but you can't compete with Home Depot and Builders First Source and McCoy's and all the big boys that that are in the billions in revenue. You're not going to be able to compete with that. And so you have to provide a service and a product that you can compete with that. And so
Yeah.
what I've really narrowed it down to is, hey, yes, I have hardware. Yes, I have plumbing. But my main focus is not plumbing. My main focus is not electrical. My main focus is definitely not nuts and bolts. Ace Hardware is probably the best at that, and there's Ace Hardware 5 miles from my store. So I can't compete to that. It's just a convenience thing. Our walk-in traffic supports a little bit of that, and we do get quite a bit of walk-in traffic because we're convenient. But my real business and my real niche is decking and decking, railing, and the expertise that goes with it. Because if you come into Loren's Lumber, not only do I have every Trex sample available for you to pick up and physically take with you, like this right here. I mean, you can take all the Trex colors that you want, take it back to your house, or take it to your customer, whatever that may be. But I have the experience, and my people have the experience to explain the differences, and I can really give you a better service. Plus, I have all the treated material in the yard. We have ground contact treated material. If you go to Home Depot and just pull a board off the shelf, it's a above ground contact, which is, man, it's just absolute cheapest material you can buy, and it's got a cheap treatment concentration as well. It's treated 0.060 is the treatment concentration. What we stock is 0.15, so it's over twice the concentration of what you would just go buy at Home Depot.
Loren, I know that you not only supply Houston deck and shade lumber from Loren's Lumber, and it is the #1 customer of Loren's Lumber, Houston Deck and Shade, but you also supply other companies that will compete with your deck building business, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That's correct. My dad is still in the business. My dad buys from me. He's a good customer of mine. He always pays his bill. That's nice.
That's good.
He doesn't complain too much. But no, I do. I supply several other contractors, and I'm trying to build that contractor portfolio. There's a little bit of a hesitant, connotation with other deck builders buying from me, but I think they'll come around in time. Because at the end of the day, I'm not out to cut anybody's throat. I'm not out to, what difference does it make whether you give me 20% margin or you give, Home Depot 30% margin? Hey, I mean, I'd rather take 20%. I'd rather save you the 10%, So I can provide them a better service with a better price just because I have lower overhead and this is my niche, and I can send it out. I have it in stock.
Yeah. And
I'm sorry. Those are all really great come through stories and stuff like that. But as a contractor, we all have had a horror story. Tell us your horror story as a contractor.
Oh, of customers?
Just anything, like something that just happened in your business. It was like, this was monumental thing that happened in my business. That was like, whatever story that is.
All right. 2015. Let me rewind it. 2012, 2013. I had these two guys that that started working for me, and one of them, they're two Mexican guys, and one of them was pretty intelligent. The other guy just went wherever the other one went. So they were like a pair. You get both of them. They were a package deal. So they came to work for me. They worked for me for several years. I trained these guys, and one of them was my right-hand man. And I go to his house one day. This is about 2015. I think it was the beginning of 2015. I go to his house one day, and I see this brand new deck on the back of his house that he built.
Oh no.
And I said, I know this guy didn't buy all this material. I know him. I mean, he's the kind of guy that takes all the, all the junky old decks we tear out and clean all the nails out of it, and he'll build his house with that. So I know he didn't buy all this material. So I said, hey man, what's the deal with that? He goes, oh man, I bought it all. I said, really? He goes, yeah, I did. And then he changed his story, said that it was all trash. Well, I know it wasn't trash. Long story short, I caught the guy stealing, and he was skimming material off our job sites. I mean, he was taking 10 or 15 boards at a time, taking them back to his house and doing his own stuff. He was probably moonlighting too with my material. I don't know how long it'd been going on. The funny thing is about it, my mentor, Roger Simons, had told me probably a year before that, he said, that guy's a thief, you need to get rid of him. I don't know how he just had this weird spider sense about it. And so, but I didn't, I was kind of in the weeds, and he was the only help I had. So anyway, long story short, fast forward to early 2015, I went over to his house and I caught him stealing, and he just quit. He took all my help. I had brought on another guy at that time, and they were all kind of friends. So overnight, I had no help, and it was this huge thing for me. I didn't have any help, so I had to scramble. I'm putting my tool bags back on. I was trying to get out of the field then, but now I can't because I got 5 or 6 jobs lined up, and I have nobody. So I scrounged around. I hired some friends, and I got some guys rolling. Well, you fast forward about 2 months, and I get hit with a lawsuit, overtime lawsuit. So I had switched from the 1099 to W-2, and I was trying to do right. I guess around 2014, 13 or 14, I switched to W-2, and I started paying everybody W-2 direct deposit. And I switched over, but I had made this agreement with this guy. I said, hey, look, man, I don't have the money to pay you overtime, so I'll just pay you cash under the table for anything over 40. Okay, well, obviously it's against the law, and in retrospect, I never should have done that, but that's what I did. So we fast forward to 2015. I get served this lawsuit papers, this overtime lawsuit. So this thing drags on. Long story short, it cost me $50,000 in lawyer fees and all the damages. I mean, I had to pay this guy all the money that I'd already paid him, plus overtime, plus damages, and it cost me. I mean, here I am, 25 years old, and I get hit with this $50,000 lawsuit. And I look back on it now, $50,000 today is still a lot of money, but back then, I mean, it was like it was bad. I didn't have $50,000. I didn't even know what $50,000 looked like. So anyway, I worked all that year, 2016. I got all that stuff taken care of. I finally got it all paid off, and we've been paying overtime since 2016.
Yeah. These are the mistakes that we make as young business owners, and it's an expensive lesson, but we don't make the mistakes again, do we, Loren?
Absolutely not. No, I would definitely tell anybody that's going into business, man, set it up right. Don't put receipts in the shoebox. I was talking to a friend of mine this morning, I'm trying to coach him, and he was telling me that he's thinking about, getting his P&Ls together and start doing that P&L thing. I said, wait a minute, what? You don't know you don't operate on a P&L? He goes, well, no, man, I just kind of put it all in a box. At the end of the day, it just all comes out in the wash. I'm like, man, you're not running a business, dude. You're going to struggle until you can professionalize your business, as Donald Miller would say.
Yeah, Bob, I'm sure that a lot of this is bringing back some nightmares for you, because you've been in the business a long time, and these are mistakes a lot of people who start a business, contractors as well in their business. These are things that they run up against often when they're younger, but we all tend to learn from these, right?
Yeah, for sure. And this is the importance of having that mentor. A lot of us contractors go into the business. We don't know anything about the business. We just know a lot about the widget that we're working with. And that can be plumbing, that can be HVAC, that can be electrical, whatever the case may be. In here, it might be for decks, right? But the widget is the widget, the business is the business. You got to separate the two. And you really need a good mentor for the things that you don't know what you're good at. And it sounded like you had a mentor there, Loren, but was that your best mentor that you were talking about, or was there another mentor in your life that really helped you in business?
So my mentors have changed. Roger Simons was probably my first business mentor, and he's still my friend. Actually, the lake house that he had, I bought his lake house, and now I moved out of the camper, and now I own his lake house. So, that's been a great relationship there. But my mentors have changed. I kind of went past what he was able to help me with. He developed me and he grew me, and he grew me as far as he could. And then now I have other mentors. My mentor now is my friend Lewis Clark. He's a chiropractor, very successful chiropractor, a man of high integrity, and he's got a mind for business, and he's a student of business, as am I. But Roger was more of a tactical guy. He was uh, very trade oriented, whereas my friend Lewis is more all about the business. I mean, he's a chiropractor. He has a very successful chiropractic clinic. What does chiropractic and deck building have in common? Absolutely nothing, except for the business principles are exactly the same. That's what they have in common. So he's really been able to help me, and I hope to be somebody's mentor.
Yeah. And when we teach others, we actually learn more. And so it's really great to not only have mentors and teachers, but for us to give back in that role, because often what those people say, Loren, that are giving back, that are mentors and teaching, is you're doing me a favor, right? But you're able to help someone else and help yourself as well. And what's amazing to me as we wrap this up, guys, is the fact that you, Loren, are such a wise man with few years. And Bob and I both know this because we've talked about this before, where when we were 19, at least in my case, I was a boy. I wasn't starting any business. Now, when I was a little kid, 12, 13, 11, I was mowing lawns and cleaning pools. I was a little self-employed guy. I was always entrepreneurial, but I really didn't get serious about stuff until I was older. And the reason why I bring this up, Loren, is because you have such a head start on so many people. And by the time you are 50 and 60, you're going to have so much to give back, and you're going to have great businesses that are going to be able to give you a great lifestyle as well. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Jim, I hope that's the case. And, if any aspiring business owners listen to this, one thing that helped me with my mentors is I have not always done what my mentors said to do, because I don't necessarily agree with everything. And ultimately, I'm the one that has to make the decision. But you always need to consider it and take the time and listen to them. And you got to do at least some of what they say, whether you agree with it or not, because, both of my mentors are more successful than me. So I've tried to help some other younger business owners that are, my age or younger, and most of them don't want to listen to me. They honestly, yeah, that works for you, but that doesn't work for my business, because my business is this, my business is different. No, it's not. Your business isn't different. It doesn't matter if you're cleaning, welding, building decks or building houses. The widget is the widget. It makes no difference at all. So if you got a mentor and you're fortunate enough to have a good mentor, man, listen to him, because if you don't, he's not going to be your mentor very long.
It's interesting. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And the problem with younger men who are entrepreneurs and business builders is they know everything. They don't want to hear it. That won't work at my business. I know better. Forget it. And the people who actually attend conferences and who have mentors, who have coaches, the ones with the open minds are the ones that move ahead and win. Very few people win on their own without other people. Wouldn't you agree, Loren?
I would go further to say that nobody wins on their own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to have a team.
Also, to your point on that, it really takes a strong family behind you. You're married, you got kids. To run a business, and your family's married to your business as well, you got to have that strong wife and that strong person behind you. Would you say that that's part of your success, is having that wife behind you?
Oh man, 100%. My wife is a huge asset. Even, we've been married since 2012. I was 22 years old when we got married, and even back in those early days, man, I worked nonstop. I was never home, and she had to put up with a lot. Now I
Mm.
take off, a lot of Fridays and some Thursdays, and I mean I have a good life now. It hasn't always been that way, and she stuck it out.
Yeah. And that's great. And you guys have a lot of life to live because I keep thinking about how young you are and how young your family is. And to get all of that out of the way, I didn't start my entrepreneurial trek until I was 36 because I came from the corporate world. So, um, yeah, a lot of people will be watching this saying, oh my gosh, I wish I at 33 or even at 40 or maybe even at 50 had that freedom, because Bob talks about freedom too. And he hasn't had that freedom quite yet. Like Loren's talking about at such a young age, right, Bob?
That's right. Yeah, no, my freedom has been definitely in building my business. I've got a lot more freedom within my business, but not outside of my business. So I still am a big part of my business. I'm still part of it day to day. I've got a lot more people in place that help me operate my business, but on the outside, no, I don't have the same freedom that I'm looking for. And that day's coming. It's coming soon, but yeah, no, I really admire what you're doing over there, Loren. You've got a really great story. I'm sure that you probably have a really good title to that story as well. I bet you that we could probably come up with one for you.
Yeah, I got one.
What
You
is
can
it?
take the boy out of the agriculture, but you can't take the agriculture out of the boy.
There you go. On that note, Loren Goodrich, thank you so much for your time today. Great stories. And Bob and I both wish you great luck in the future.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
Entrepreneurship, got that inspiration. Yeah, now I'm just doing it. Working on these projects, my ideas I'm pursuing. No matter what the problem, the solution, I'm proving it. Let's talk about it and open up the dialogue. Contractors, telling their stories about how they got it started and how they keep it going.